Hey guys, so today's video is going to be another Shop My Stash for Dupes video, but this time we are shopping my stash for dupes for the ABH Sultry palette. So I will insert a picture of that palette right here if you guys don't know what it looks like. But many of you probably do because it is ABH's newest release and they're a very popular brand. And as many of you have probably seen in stores, this palette is gorgeous. I mean, I am not a cool tone gal and I think this palette is absolutely beautiful. But I was actually going through my collection earlier today and watching a video on the Sultry palette, and I think I found a pretty good dupe. And it is on sale for $10.80 at the time that I'm filming this video. And that is the ABH Cosmetics Royal Affair palette. So we will get into some more specific swatches, but here's just kind of an overview of the palette. It is kind of a more cool toned palette. It does have a lot of really nice neutral shades as well. So it's not strictly just like taupes and grays. But yeah, I'm so excited to actually swatch that on my arm and see how much it really does compare. So the first shade in the palette that we are trying to dupe is the shade Fresh, and this is just kind of a matte cream shade. And to dupe that, I dipped into the shade Rain right here in the ABH Cosmetics palette. And here it is swatched on my arm. It's probably going to be kind of hard to see because I'm deathly pale and the shade is very, very light. But there's that shade. Next shade in the palette is called Steampunk, and it's kind of a dirty gold. I feel like it has a little bit of green in it. And to dupe that shade, I dipped into the shade Imperial right here, and there's that swatched on my arm. I will say that these shimmers are not as creamy as the ones in the Sultry palette, at least based on the swatches that I did in stores a little while ago, but they can definitely very easily be built up on your eyelid, or if you use a wet brush, you'll get a more intense effect. Next shade in the palette is called Ember, and it's kind of a taupey shade, and I feel like in some swatches it has like a hint of green to it. So to do that, I dipped into the shade Aristocrat right here in this palette, and there's that swatch on my arm. Look how beautiful that is. That one is definitely creamier than the previous shade. The next shade in the palette is called Birched, and it's kind of just a medium neutrally brown. And to dupe that one, I dipped into the shade Majesty right here. But I think Prince is also pretty comparable to that. It's just a tad bit warmer than Majesty, and I think Birchland's a bit more neutral, so I went with Majesty versus Prince. So here's that shade swatched right here. Next shade in the palette is called Twig, and it's just kind of a cool toned taupe. I mean, I guess in essence taupes are cool toned, but you guys know what I mean. And I duped that with the shade Empress right here in the ABH Cosmetics palette, and here's that swatched on my arm. The next shade in the palette is called Dystopian, and it is a very deep, rich, like cool toned brown. And to dupe that, I dipped into the shade Duchess in the ABH Cosmetics palette. And here's what that looks like swatched on my arm. Based on the swatches that I'm going off of on Instagram, it looks like Dystopian may be a tad bit more cool toned than Duchess, but I think that they would perform very, very similarly on the eyes, and you probably couldn't tell a difference. The next shade in the palette is called Slate, and to dupe that, I dipped into the shade called Palace in the ABH Cosmetics palette. It's just kind of a nice medium tone gray, I would say, and I think this is a super duper close dupe for Slate. The next shade is called Pearl, and I had a little bit of difficulty duping this one with the ABH Cosmetics palette. Pearl is just a very classic kind of shimmery ivory shade, and I feel like those are a dime a dozen in lots of our collections. The only thing that is similar in the ABH Cosmetics palette is this shade right here, and it is called Throne, but this has quite a strong blue duochrome shift that's not really showing on my finger. I don't know if that's going to pick up on camera or not, but I do feel like that kind of shade is a dime a dozen in most of our collections, so I'm really not too worried that I couldn't dupe that shade with this palette because I have it in so many other palettes. So the next shade in the palette is called Rose Quartz, and to dupe that one, I'm going to dip into the shade Honor, right here in the ABH Cosmetics palette. So here's that swatch on my arm. I feel like this is also kind of similar to Cinder. I feel like this shade is kind of a cross between Rose Quartz and Cinder. It's just a beautiful, like, bronzy, yummy shade. I love these kinds of shades, you guys. The next shade in the palette is called Bloom, and to dupe that, I'm going to dip into the shade Lady that's right here in the ABH Cosmetics palette. And there we go. I feel like that is also a very spot-on dupe. It's just kind of a nice bright salmony corally color. It's very pretty. I feel like it's a bit odd with the colors that they picked for the Sultry palette, but it could provide some unexpected color combinations. So the next two shades are Cinder and Teak, and those are taupey shades. They're taupey brown shades. Cinder is definitely a little bit lighter than Teak, and like I said before, I feel like Honor is really the best color match for those couple of shades in the palette. It's kind of the only thing that's similar in the palette. The only thing that even comes close is the shade Lord right here, which I have swatched on my finger. But I feel like this is much more cool toned than Cinder or Teak, but I am going to swatch it along with the other shades on my arm because I feel like it still really fits really well with this color story, and I don't think it would look out of place at all in the Sultry palette. So there's that. Actually, I'm going to swatch it out on my arm. That looks much more similar to Teak. Next shade in the palette is the shade Cyborg, and to dupe that, I'm going to dip into High Tea right here, which is just a beautiful, beautiful silver. So here's that swatched on my arm. I feel like Cyborg may have some more taupey undertones than this straight up silver, but once again, I feel like once you get them on the eyes, they're really not going to look that different. And finally, the last shade in the palette is Noir, and to dupe that, I dipped into the shade Enchanted right here, which is just a really nice matte black. And there you guys have it. There is the duped Sultry palette. So this palette does originally retail for $18, but like I said, it's on sale for $10.80 at the moment. If it's not on sale at the moment, just wait a couple weeks. BH Cosmetics has sales all the time, and this does go on sale at Ulta from time to time. Before I close out this video, I do want to do some close-up swatches of the duped palette on my arm because I know it's a little bit difficult to see it from this far away, so you guys can get a really nice in-close, in-depth look. Alright, so here is the whole palette. I am so shocked that we were able to dupe almost every single shade with that BH Cosmetics palette, and I am so excited to kind of play with this color story and create some really fabulous looks. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed this Shop My Stash kind of video. I knew that I really wanted to do one on Sultry because while I don't love cool tones, I watched Jessica Braun's video on this palette and it kind of convinced me that maybe I need to, you know, open my mind a little bit, open my makeup preferences, because I could be missing out on something really beautiful and really special. But I am so over the moon excited that I found this dupe for the palette because this is a fraction of the price. So let me know down in the comments if you guys know of any other Sultry dupes or any other palettes that you want me to dupe with this kind of style of video. I will link my other Shop My Stash for Dupes videos down below in case you guys are interested in those, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!